Welcome to DC SportsTalk Xtra. I'm your host, Jack Morrison, and we got a great show for you today. This is your home for all DC sports news, insights, and analysis. Today we start with nationwide news, followed by Commanders football, the Nationals farm system layout, and some NHL Goalie Week stories. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get it going. Football is back, taking on the Giants at home. Of course, Giants will put out their rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart, selecting him in the first round over the surprising slide of Shedeur Sanders, obviously, was the big story there. But Dart has been their guy in training camp. We look at Brian Daboll. He's had a lot of praise for Dart. He's had a lot of praise for how he's been running the offense. And the Giants receivers are really looking at that and as a good positive for this organization. But it'll be interesting to see how they stack up against a top 10 Commanders defense that's only gotten better, especially with the addition of elite pass rusher Von Miller. So what I would look for tonight is just how Dart can combat the pass rush, especially with, obviously, Saquon Barkley not there anymore, and of course Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy being a good running back duo. But how can they compare to Von Miller? It's going to be interesting to watch with Von Miller obviously signing a 1-year extension. Won't have to deal with him for long, but it'll be an interesting one. Miller coming off 3 All-Pro seasons. Last year was not one of them. But with the Broncos, Bills, and Rams, he had great solid 3 years before his injury-torn last year. But Miller should be an exciting addition to the Commanders' front seven. They'll have that defensive line consisting of, obviously, those top guys over there and Bobby Wagner in the linebacker core, and not to mention Sandra Still, Frankie Louvu. Should be very interesting to watch. I'm excited for this Washington defense. It is not one that the Giants can take for granted, and of course with the Giants head coaching in Brian Daboll, of course being offense centered with Jackson Dart, I think a way that they can combat that front seven strength is letting Darius Slayton do what he does best, and that is run deep. And he is essentially a George Pickens, where he just catches the ball whenever it comes to him if he's deep. And Jackson Dart, obviously his last name's Dart, he's got a good arm. He will be able to lob up the football to him, and if they can get that to click without having too much pressure on the line on the Washington defensive line, I think the Giants can do just fine. But as for the Commanders' offense, of course, the exciting sophomore Jaden Daniels will come out against the Giants with a new offensive line core that I am very excited about. Obviously, taking Josh Connerly Jr. in round 1 on draft day was the 27th overall pick, I believe. Connerly received high praise from Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, who told Josh Harris, he's our guy, he's who we want, take the Oregon tackle, which would have been Connerly. He will start on the right side with Laramie Tunzel, the veteran tackle, blocking Daniels' blind side. Should be very interesting. Obviously, Tyler Biotish will get the start at center, despite not having a lot of first-team reps in camp. He will be starting tonight, snapping to Jaden Daniels over there. The running back core was the real story during the running back and, of course, obviously the Terry McLaurin business, which we'll get to in a bit. But the running back core was really the big story. You have Brian Robinson, the power running back, who's figured to be a big part of their offense this year, obviously traded over to San Francisco in exchange for some late-round draft picks. Robinson was figured to be their RB1, but obviously drafting the young Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He goes by Bill. They love watching him play, what he did in the preseason. He's got a very dynamic play style. He can do everything. He's got a Christian McCaffrey kind of play style to him, where he's a great receiving back. He can catch the ball just as well as he can run it. And for a guy like Daniels, who who everyone says is a running quarterback, but really he's a great pocket passer too. And I think if the Commanders can continue to utilize and work the screen pass into their offense more with such a good receiving back in Krosky Merritt, that's going to be something to watch out for, especially with Xavier McKinney on the Giants now not being anymore their cornerback one. So with Krosky Merritt, Chris Rodriguez Jr., that's going to be a nice running back core to watch, especially Robinson going to the 49ers. He will be paired with McCaffrey, which is definitely going to be an interesting thing to see as we get later into the year. But Commanders-Giants Week 1 should be a doozy, especially concerning the running backs with two great cores on the Giants, as I mentioned, Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary, and of course Rodriguez and Krosky Merritt over in Washington. Terry McLaurin obviously was there was a big umbrella over that, a big cloud, whether or not he would end up signing with Washington, signing an extension, which they ended up doing. He signed for 3 years and $96 million, and that was exactly what he was asking for all that time, but they just signed him late. Apparently, the threat of the deadline is what got Adam Peters to do his job. I'm not saying Adam Peters is bad at his job, but I mean, if it was what you were asking for all along, then why not? Right? Like, I mean, Adam Peters, they've got the money, they had the cap space to sign him. It's just a matter of whether or not they wanted to. And I get that you want to prioritize your draft picks, but I mean, you've got a wide receiver 1 that you want to lock up for the future, and he's been a primary target of Jaden Daniels, who's a young quarterback. You want him to feel confident in his receivers. But arguably, I mean, Terry McLaurin, obviously a big part. But I think the other receiver core, it's one of the best in the league, to be completely honest. I had the opportunity to speak with Jalen Lane, one of the third-round draft picks from Washington out of Virginia Tech, was a very good receiver. Washington is going to intend to play him in the slot. He was very dangerous in the slot in college. I was able to ask him about what he can do to separate himself from other receivers in his draft class. His speed is really what makes him dangerous, he said, and if he can continue to utilize that, especially in a very quick offense with a very good offensive line now with Tunsil and Connerly Jr. being in there, he's definitely going to be a weapon, especially with Daniels, a guy who likes throwing to the slot. So you've got obviously guys De'Ami Brown, Noah Brown, that'll be playing the other wideout spot, and then of course McLaurin, with Jalen Lane being in the slot. That's definitely going to be something to watch out for. The two tight ends, John Bates had a really good preseason. Love watching him. He's a great blocking tight end, which I think nowadays in the NFL is very underrated. It's overlooked a lot. But you've got a big tight end like John Bates. He clears the way, especially for two young running backs in Rodriguez and Krosky Merritt. It'll definitely be something to watch how he blocks and creates space in the slot if he's not running for Lane to get separated. So I like the way this Washington offense is panning out. I think it's going to be something that everybody needs to really be careful for. But aside from that, I mean, the offensive line, if you look at the Washington offensive line, you've got, obviously, the two young rookies, or the rookie Connerly, and then you have, obviously, the veteran Laramie Tunsil over on the other side of the offensive line. Definitely going to be something to look out for. Ben Sinnott can also sub in as a blocking tight end. They love what he does over there. George Fant, again on that offensive line, adds a third tackle option. If Connerly Jr., obviously, he's a rookie, he still needs time. Brandon Coleman, another bigger offensive tackle option. Obviously, Nick Allegretti and Andrew Wiley were part of that Kansas City team winning in 2023. That 2022-2023 season, they were a big part of that offensive line with Allegretti and Wiley as guards, along with, of course, Joe Thuney, that was a good offensive line, and we now have two of those big parts of that offensive line. And of course, Jeremy McNichols, who we saw block a lot as a running back for Jaden Daniels. So I like the protection that Daniels has, and he's definitely going to have it for a while. But it's a matter of, and of course against the Giants secondary, I don't think he'll have a problem there. But in the division, obviously Giants secondary, not really one that is going to cause a lot of problems for Washington. But then you've got the Philadelphia Eagles, who have got, in my opinion, one of the best safety cores that you'll ever see. Zach Baun, who's such a versatile player at both the linebacker and safety position. You have Reed Blankenship, who's a very dynamic safety who can really do whatever you need him to do. You've got great safety core over there. Adoree Jackson, a lot of young guys over there that really know what they're doing. Very athletic safety core. They know how to read the football well. And I think that's going to be something interesting to watch. Obviously, same division with Daniels going to be playing them twice. So it's going to be interesting for his development to see how he can counteract that that veteran, or not the veteran, to counteract that safety core over there in Philadelphia. It's definitely going to show a lot about his development again, because if a quarterback like him, if he can continue to adapt and face those safeties and be smart with the football, which we saw him do a lot last year, that's definitely going to be something to watch, and I'm excited for that. Going back to the Commanders' defense, very excited because there were a lot of younger guys. Tyler Owens, who we saw as a big hitter at the safety position, like a Brian Dawkins kind of play style. He lays hits on a lot of guys, and he is a very big hitter, which is definitely something to watch out for, especially against a young team like the Giants. And he was really able. I loved watching him play in the preseason as well. And the Commanders, they've loved what they saw. Dan Quinn had high praise for him. And obviously Quinn being such a veteran in defense, obviously the defensive coordinator in Dallas for the longest time, they loved watching him. And I like what he's going to be able to do. Obviously the big trade last year for Marshawn Lattimore, they've got him on an extension, and I like that. He's going to be a veteran that's going to be able to be there alongside the younger defense. Same with Javon Kinlaw, who I like as a defensive tackle option alongside Daron Payne. That's definitely going to be something to watch. Javon Kinlaw, he played in San Francisco, was a big part of their defensive line for a while, and comes here in free agency. Some other free agent acquisitions, the big ones really, Laramie Tunsil. Obviously that, but you've got another one that is often overlooked was I think the Deebo Samuel one. People are saying, he's old, he's not what he used to be, but I think it's a perfect addition to the offense because Jaden Daniels is somebody that has a ton of weapons, and Deebo Samuel is somebody who can do and use all of those weapons. He's got the speed still. He can do whatever. They'll play him in the slot along with Jalen Lane. That's going to be very dangerous, especially with the combined speed of those two. Samuel can play in the backfield. He can play in the slot. He can play wide out. He can do a lot of things, and the amount of options that he gives Jaden Daniels, I think, really helps that offense, especially with him still being young. I mean, yes, he had a great season last year, but he's still young. He still needs to learn how to really take care of the football like a veteran quarterback. And we saw flashes of that last year, and I think with Deebo Samuel, a veteran who not only gives him those options, but can show him how to use them, that's going to be super valuable for Daniels as he progresses as a player. This wide receiver core I keep talking about, I love them. Jalen Lane, very speedy. You've got a ton of speed on this offense with McNichols. But if you combine Samuel and Lane both in the slot, if you have like a five receiver setup, that's going to be dangerous because the combined speed and the amount of weapons that the Commanders can use is going to be very dangerous. And really one of the ways to counteract that is with a cover 4 defense, which you can use against that speed and put so many players deep. But then you also have to realize, look, it's Jaden Daniels. He can really run the football. And that's another thing that makes this offense so dangerous. Again, the amount of options that this team has to work with is going to make them a force in the NFC. Moving on now, we'll have a look at the Washington Nationals farm system layout. I had the opportunity to be on Beyond the Ballpark with Pat Moran yesterday. We talked a lot about the farm system layout. Go check that episode out on Spotify. Going to come out this weekend, hopefully. But I love talking to him. We spoke a lot about the Nationals. But today we're gonna talk about the farm system layout. There are a lot of options in the Nationals farm system. So let's have a look at the top prospects list in Washington. So by position, obviously, in overall, you've got Eli Willits, the number 1 overall pick. Love watching him play baseball. He's got a great bat, a switch hitter. He can do whatever you need. 6'1", 180. He is a great versatile option. Still only 17 years old, so you've got a ton of developing to do. But he's already shown that he can be a big league hitter. He's working at bats in low A and high A, and the fact that he's able to do that, it's still such a young age, is really saying a lot about what he can do and how fast he can develop. Second on the list, obviously, you've got the right-hander Travis Sikora, who I love. He's 6'6", 232. Got a great fastball and a great slider over there. He is in Double-A alongside his fellow top prospect Harleen Susanna, who I love. Righty with a great changeup, great fastball, great slider. He's got another great combo, nearly an identical frame. Both 21 years old, both 6'6". Susanna just 3 pounds heavier at 235, and both of them are right-handed in Double-A. So I look forward to that rotation being really, really a problem. You've also got, in addition, you've got Alex Klemny, who is additionally in Double-A, a lefty, 20 years old, 6'6", 205. He's got a dynamic fastball as well. The amount of pitching that this farm system has is interesting, but it's really not the starting pitching that is the problem. It is the bullpen that is causing Washington its problems, because you've got guys that have great stuff. You've got Jake Irvin, you've got Mackenzie Gore, obviously reached 100 strikeouts faster than anybody else in the league. You've got, you have Mitchell Parker. These guys, they know how to pitch. They know what they're doing out there. But what good is a starting pitcher that gives up nothing if the bullpen's just going to come out and give up 5, right? I saw a stat the other day, which I spoke with Pat about. If Paul Skeens, if every single start his bullpen allowed less than 3 runs, his record would be 31-4. Think about that, 31-4. That is unbelievable. And that's all. That's not asking a ton of his bullpen. I mean, especially guys like Cade Cavalli, who got a lot of bullpen reps in the minor leagues. Obviously, he's going to be a starter, but I mean, it's just absurd how valuable the bullpen is. And when you draft a guy, you're not looking to develop him into a long relief pitcher. You're not looking to develop him into a closer. He's going to be a starter if you're drafting somebody that's going to pitch in the MLB. But I like where the Nationals' starting pitching is headed, at least for the moment. And I like what it's going to be in just a few years. Obviously, if they keep, and I love the idea of keeping that Soto trade core together. with the amount of options in the outfield that they have, and with the amount of options at pitching they have, they can surely convert one of these guys into a bullpen weapon. Who I like for that is Yoel Tejeda Jr., who is in high A plus, and he is, you ready for this? He is 6'8", 215 pounds. He is a fireballing right-hander. Love watching him, and he is, I think, would be a great candidate to make one of those back-end relievers. We saw the Nationals, what they can do with good pitching. And that, I mean, obviously that 2019 World Series run, that was something else. But you've got that back-end bullpen, it really only took like 3 or 4 guys. You had Kelvin Herrera, Sean Doolittle, and Daniel Hudson. And Hudson and Herrera were acquired at the deadline. So you really started the season with only Sean Doolittle, who was a pretty good closer, but he wasn't like top of the league closer. He was just a guy that the Nats wanted to get outs in the 9th inning, and it ended up working pretty well for them. So we've talked about pitching. Let's move on into the outfield, where you've got so many options. Of course, in the outfield, obviously in the outfield, you've got in the big leagues right now, Jacob Young, who I love, very fast. And as I was saying about the Commanders, Jacob Young, he's got a lot of speed, and with the amount of options that Washington, the Nationals have, obviously Hassel, power bat, James Wood, power and contact, real 5-tool guy right there, and Dalen Lyle, who's a great contact bat. There's a lot of options that the Nationals have in their outfield, and in the farm system coming up, you've still got so many outfield options. You have, guys like Yohan De Morales, who can play outfield. Obviously, they're probably going to put him at third. Christian Vizquero, Sam Peterson, these guys that can play outfield and that have so many different skill sets. I think that's critical for Washington to have and be able to pick and choose from. Which leads me directly into my next point. It's going to be very easy having this many options for Miguel Cairo. Obviously, never managed before in the big leagues, but obviously, being appointed as the manager after the firings of Martinez and Rizzo, he will definitely be set in terms of outfield selection, which is not easy on most teams. I mean, you've got, like, take the Dodgers, for instance. You've got a lot of guys that really just do the same thing, and that's hit for power. And if you're trying to build a well-rounded team, that's not really something that you can that it's easy to do for a new manager. And I'm not saying that the Nationals are better than the Dodgers. I'm just saying they've got more options, and it's going to be well suited for Cairo to build for the future. As for the outfield in the big leagues right now, I like the options of Hassel, Wood, Lyle in the outfield. I think Dalen Lyle is going to continue to develop, and he is one of my favorite guys to watch play baseball in the entire MLB. The way he's got such a great glove, and he's able to use that bat in so many different ways, being an elite contact hitter. Dalen Lyle is going to be a part of that outfield for a while. And as for the options of pitching as well, I mean, you can convert any of these guys into the bullpen with the amount of pitchers that the Nationals have coming up, especially with Mackenzie Gore already in the rotation. I think that key again is the options for Miguel Cairo. That this is why I'm optimistic about the layout of this farm system right now. You've got so many guys that can do so many different things in so many different positions. That I love about this farm system, and that's what's going to give Miguel Cairo an edge here. This week is NHL Goalie Week, so I thought it might be a good idea to share some fun goalie gaffes. Longtime Detroit Red Wings goalie Chris Osgood, he famously refused to switch from his old school helmet cage goalie mask. The problem, though, it became increasingly difficult to find replacement parts for it. Obviously, they didn't make it anymore at the time. So, and it was very interesting. He would scour beer leagues all over Michigan looking for parts to keep his goalie mask going. And Mickey Redmond, who was the color commentator, the analyst for Detroit, once put a call out for donations on a telecast, and all team personnel, they helped out whenever they could, finding whatever they could to end up getting Chris Osgood what he wanted. And according to Redmond, he said, quote, I love this quote. He said, quote, when the team masseuse remembered that he had two HM30s, which is that style helmet, in his garage back home in Moscow, Boyer promptly had them shipped. Boyer was the equipment manager. Boyer promptly had them shipped. He said, Ozzy finished his career with a helmet from the Red Army. Wow, he was quite a character right there. Chris Osgood. And especially Rick DiPietro returning from having his face caved in one of those fights. He found that the steel plates that he had from surgery made it very uncomfortable to wear his regular mask, but the Islanders still had one of Chris Osgood's old helmets from Detroit lying around, and that wide open old style cage made it far more comfortable for DiPietro to wear. Even though they're nowhere near as protective as a modern mask, which ended up not ending well, because 3 months later he took a puck to the head in practice and got a concussion. Yeah, that's something. Goalies, man, they're quite eccentric characters. Oh boy. This is an interesting one. We've got Mr. Goalie, Glenn Hall, who had this condition. Obviously, he would throw up before every single game out of nervous. He didn't wear a helmet or mask. And this is impressive because he started 502 consecutive games, which is a record for NHL goaltenders, and it will probably never be broken. It should be up there with Cal Ripken's and Brett Favre's. I don't think it'll be touched. Because, I mean, nowadays, the crazy good endurance starters, they'll go like 8 or 10 games before a break. And, you get, it's guys like Kaprizov, he consistently has had a lot of games played for quite a lot of time. And that was usually around 72. Ridiculous how much they would do. Obviously, another longtime Red Wing, Dominik Hasek, one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. Quite the character. Love that guy. But he said, he was asked about a shot that hit the post in a post-game interview. And he said, what, you want me to stop the ones that aren't going in? And Hasek, I mean, he stopped pretty much all the ones that were going in. So why not start stopping the ones that aren't? And so, last goalie story for you here. Mike Keane, Patrick Waugh, great friends in the 90s. And they would always drive together to home games. They were carpool, they were best friends. And one day, in the 1996 playoffs, Mike Keane was driving. He had an orange parking cone. And they won an important game that night against the Wings. So from then on, every home game, Mike Keane and Patrick Waugh ran over that same parking cone every home game as good luck. Well, goalie week, obviously, NHL goalies deserve so much respect. Such a difficult position. And they deserve a lot of respect over there. But that'll be it for today. Come back next week. We'll talk about the Commanders week 1 and have a look at their season schedule. And give some predictions and expectations for what they've got, as well as a bit of a surprise. We're going to play a game tomorrow with an all-time basketball draft of all-time players, and that's going to be not just by myself. I'm going to do that against ChatGPT. Stick around. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.